Okay, can you hear me now, Erica? I feel like I'm doing a commercial on TV. Um, so sometimes when can you use my other microphone, we don't get the audio very good. So let's see if everybody's hearing it now. Hopefully, yes. She said yes. Okay, so we'll use this other microphone. So if you're new to the show, you might not know who I am. I'm Charmaine Thaner. I'm a parent. I'm also an advocate for other families, and I help parents problem solve around the special education process and help them get the education that their child deserves. So I hope that you'll be a regular here with us. We're going to start right off with the first shocking truth about extended school year. So if you're ready to hear this, give me a thumbs up. You can just click on that little thumbs up symbol right there and let me know that you're ready to hear the first shocking truth about extended school year. And it is that the extended school year services are not even mentioned in the IDEA law. Now, can you believe that? It's like, what? You know, if we have extended school year services in my child's IEP, what do you mean it's not in the IDEA law? But that's true. It's not written in the federal law, but it is written in our federal regulations. So one of the things that we need to do is to make sure that parents understand what the federal regulations are. So we'll be talking about a little bit about the background of extended school year, but we also had some parents that posted some questions on our Facebook page this week. So we'll also be answering those specific questions that parents posted about extended school year. But basically, extended school year is all about making sure that your child has the appropriate services and supports throughout the, not just the school year, but throughout the calendar year if they need it, so they can have a free, appropriate public education. And what we'll notice tonight is, even though there's no mention of ESY in the law, the federal regulations do spell out some things that we'll go over. But probably most important is that you want to check with your state rules and regulations as far as what they say, because this can really differ state by state. There's a number of court cases that have come about and that define what kinds of criteria can be used for determining extended school year, and that's where we see a lot of the states taking their direction. So depending on what circuit court you live in and what your state has decided to adopt, things, factors and criteria for extended school year can really differ depending on the state. But we're going to talk tonight first about those federal regulations, and then I'll also get into some more specific state regulations. So as I said, extended school year is when some students on IEPs require additional special education or related services that are longer than that regular school year in order to receive an appropriate public education. And that's why we call it extended school year services. So let's look here. As I said, it's really important to know what the federal regs say. So if you're unsure about how to go about finding what the federal regulations say about extended school year, just type in the box Yes, give me the federal regs, and I'll make sure that I connect with you and that we get those regulations out to you. The other thing is to know that the federal regulation set the minimum requirements or standards for extended school year, and your state regulations have to meet those federal standards, just the minimum, or sometimes if you're lucky enough, you live in a state that actually exceeds the minimum requirements from the federal government. And again, if you'd like to know what your state regulations are for extended school year, just type in the box, yes, give me the state regs. Tell me what state you're from, and I'll help you figure out where those are. Because sometimes it takes kind of a scavenger hunt on the websites to figure out exactly where states post their regulations. But I'd be happy to help you with that. So as I said, we had some parents submit some questions this week, and Tanya was one of the parents, and she posted and said, my son doesn't qualify. I'm not sure how he would or the criteria. This year he doesn't, maybe next year, they say. So let's look at those federal regulations. I always have to preference things by saying that I'm not an attorney, so I can't give you legal advice, but I can show you what the federal regulations say, and I can tell you how I understand what they mean. So let's look at the first part, and this is in the federal regulations, and it says that school districts must ensure that extended school year services are available to provide a student with a free, appropriate public education. And if you have questions as we're going through here, please type them in, or you can let me know that you're here, and as we go through it, feel free to make comments or questions. So the first regulation is all about your child making sure that they have that free, appropriate public education, and sometimes in order to get that, your child needs to receive extended school year services. Now, the second part of the federal regulation talks about how the IEP team needs to be the group of people that make the decision about extended school year. So hopefully you have that full IEP team there when a decision about extended school year is made. I don't usually recommend that parents excuse people from being at the IEP team meetings. I think it's very important that the whole team is there. And this is where the parent is supposed to have equal input. So when you look at the IEP, it shouldn't already be decided and already checked no that your child doesn't qualify for ESY services. That part should be left blank, and it should be a discussion at the IEP team meeting. Sometimes if your meetings are in the fall, the IEP team will say, well, let's see how your child does throughout the school year, and they'll mark a box that usually says to be determined, and they'll put a date on when the team is going to reconvene to decide about extended school year services. Now, the third part of the federal regulation says that school districts can't limit ESY services to only particular disabilities. So this needs to be decided on an individual basis. You should not be hearing from the school district that your child, doesn't have this type of disability, therefore they don't qualify for extended school year services. The federal requirements talk about that these must be available to all students with disabilities if the IEP team decides that they're needed. So just because your child has a disability doesn't mean they automatically get ESY, but they can't be left out because they have, a cognitive disability versus autism. The IEP team needs to look at all the students and make sure that that's considered. The fourth part of the federal regulation is that the school district cannot unilaterally, that means by themselves, limit the type of services, the amount of ESY services, or the duration of those services. And we'll be talking a little bit more about this as we go through our live show tonight, because there were some questions from some parents about, exactly what kind of services can I get and what would be the length of time that they would happen. The fifth part of the federal regulations, it's kind of funny, it actually gets to the definition towards the end of their regulation, but it does define ESY as meaning special education and related services, so that could be speech or OT, something like that, in accordance with your child's IEP at no cost to the parents, and it must meet the standards of the state education agency. So that means to meet the standards of your special education or your state of education, your Department of Education in your state. I'm going to check my Facebook. My page is kind of swirling around here, so I'm not sure if we have any comments yet. But if you have questions or comments, please type them in, and we'll make sure that we have a conversation going. So we've just covered the 5 areas that the federal regulations talk about ESY. Again, if you just joined us, if you want a copy of what the federal regulations are, type in the comment box, yes, give me the federal regs, and I'll make sure that I get you a copy or send you the link. So now we're to the part where we're going to talk about the second shocking truth of ESY. Now, if you weren't here when we first started, the first shocking truth that we had was that the federal law doesn't even say anything about extended school year. It's all in the regulations, not in the law. Our second shocking truth, are you ready? Type ready in the box. You're ready to hear this? We need a drum roll. That there's nothing in the federal regs about the specific criteria to use when considering if a student qualifies for ESY or not. So remember those 5 parts that we just talked about from the federal regs? Nowhere in there did they say you have to use recoupment, you have to use regression, you have to use predictive factors. None of that's in the federal regulations. What they're emphasizing in the federal regulations is that it allows your child to have a free, appropriate public education. So this is where, again, it's important for you to know what your state says in order for you to be able to make a good case on whether or not your child qualifies for extended school year services. So Tanya's question that she had said earlier was about Brenda said she's not. Maureen says, our school only offers ESY in one location and with all 4 elementary school attending in a one-size-fits-all program. Is this allowed? And Brenda, we are going to get to that question because that is something for sure that some other parents have asked. So stay tuned because we'll be getting that answer for you. So if Erica, Maureen, or Brenda, can you see the video now? You want to make sure that you're not only hearing me, because I have some no video or audio, just black screen. So Brenda, can you check? Maureen says yes, it's back on. So Erica says yes. So Brenda, you might close out of Facebook and then go back onto the link and see. I don't know if maybe we're having a blurb in our internet connection, but I certainly don't want you to miss it, and I don't want it to be a black screen for people. So see if you can log out of Facebook and log back on and get what we're showing and talking about. So let's see. As I was saying, most states take their direction from the court cases that have happened around extended school year. Most court cases across the country have talked about the factors of regression and recoupment. And chances are those are things that you've heard talked about at your child's school or during the IEP meeting. So let's look at what regression and recoupment means. Regression is when your child's either their skill level or their knowledge has a decline after there's been either a vacation or a break. So sometimes we can look at that as after Christmas break, your child maybe knew some things in the fall of the year, but then after a long winter break, they might come back. They might have lost those skills. So that would be considered regression. Recoupment is the second part of that factor, and recoupment is the amount of time it takes for your child to regain those skills that they had. So if we're talking about Christmas break or a long winter break, your child had certain skills in the fall. After vacation, they lost those skills. They, forgot how to, do a certain math problem or something like that. And it took them a very long period of time for them to get back to that level that they were at before the vacation happened. So that would be considered recoupment. Now, your child most likely has more than one IEP goal. They don't have to show regression and recoupment on every IEP goal in order to qualify for ESY services. Even if they only show that regression and recoupment on one IEP goal, that could be the IEP or the goal that would be targeted for ESY services. There are states that use additional things beyond that regression and recoupment part. There are some states that will also talk about emerging skills. And these are really important to look at if this is one of the factors that your state includes in their ESY regulations. And this is if the student is just starting to learn a skill and the IEP team believes that with ESY services, the student would make reasonable gains. Most of the time, when you're talking about extended school year services, you're talking about just maintaining the skill or the skills that your child had during the regular school year. Most states do not say during extended school year, we want your child to make more progress. What they say is we just want your child to maintain the skill level that he had before vacation. Now, this can be kind of depressing for parents because it's like, well, we want our kids, if they're getting school services, we want them making progress. But this isn't usually the definition of extended school year services by the states. However, if you live in a state where they talk about emerging skills, this is something that you could use as part of your discussion about ESY is you could say, my child is just learning how to use his communication device. And the team could say, I bet if he keeps working on this during vacation, we keep giving him these services to use a communication device, he would make some significant gains. In that case, you could say, yes, the child or the student qualifies for extended school year services. Now, another factor that a lot of states will use is called the nature and severity of the disability. And this is how your child's disability impacts them and whether or not they require that continuous level of services year-round, not just during the typical school calendar. A lot of parents of children with autism will use this nature and severity of the child's disability to help them get ESY services, saying that students with autism need that continuous level of services. They need that routine. There's a lot of, documentation and research that you could bring into the discussion. But again, everything is going to be decided at the IEP team level. So you need to make sure that you have that dialogue with the IEP team. And again, we don't want teams saying, well, your child doesn't have a severe disability and therefore he doesn't qualify for ESY. Because if he meets some of the other criteria, like the regression and recoupment, like the emerging skills, he could qualify under that factor. They don't have to qualify under every single factor. Now, I'm hoping Brenda got back on. I don't know. Let's see. So, yeah, I'm hoping. Maureen says that, it's all back on for her. So I hope Brenda will be able to rejoin us too. Now, I know we have some parents on here from Idaho, so I thought it would be interesting to share. If you look in Idaho's state special education manual, you'll see a section on extended school year. And one of the factors that Idaho will consider is called self-sufficiency factor. And this is defined as if there's an interruption in the education services that would threaten your child being able to gain and have critical life skills. And critical life skills are defined as the student's ability to function as independently as possible. And if your child needs to develop these critical life skills or these in order to be more self-sufficient and not so dependent on a parent or a caretaker to provide them help, then that could be a reason, if you live in Idaho, for your child to get extended school year services. Now, in the Idaho State Manual, it does talk about some examples of these self-sufficiency factors, and the skills could be like toileting, feeding, mobility, communication, dressing, self-help, and social emotional functioning. So if these types of skills are written into your child's IEP and they have goals for these type of adaptive behavior skills, that might be a reason for you to say that your child needs extended school year so they can maintain those skills over a school break. And then I know we also have some folks on from Colorado. So if you look at Colorado's ESY manual, one of the factors that Colorado uses is the interaction with peers. And they talk about whether or not the student will have opportunities to interact with peers without disabilities during extended breaks so that can help the child avoid any significant jeopardy to learn skills. So again, if your child has some social skills goals written in the IEP, and for him to be around typical age peer models and to work on either communication or social skills with typical peers, and if you live in Colorado, you could use that as one of the factors to say, yes, my child needs extended school year services, so they continue to be with students that don't have disabilities. I know I was just talking to a mom yesterday from Colorado, and she was talking about having her son's ESY services in the least restrictive environment. And yes, the least restrictive environment does pertain to extended school year. And I would say that would be true for no matter what state you live in. And next week, we'll be talking a little bit more about how LRE, or least restrictive environment, needs to be a factor when they're looking at the placement for extended school year. So if I'm going to look back on here, because Maureen had said, in her district that they only have one location. Kids from all different 4 elementary schools come to this one location. It's a one-size-fits-all program. Would this be allowed? So my advocate answer would be no. It's not individualized. When they say everybody gets, 4 weeks of extended school year for X amount of hours each day for only 4 days a week, that's a program that the district has decided on. Those are the parameters that they set, but that's not probably what your individual child needs. So I would say to go to the IEP team and talk about your child's individual needs. Some children might need less time than what the district typically offers. Some students might need more time. Some students don't need ESY services in June and July. Maybe they need it in August before school starts up. So if you're told, this is what we offer, these are the dates that we offer at ESY, the school district isn't individualizing it for your child, and that isn't going to provide them a free, appropriate public education. So for sure, I would ask for another IEP team meeting and to talk about that. We also have another mom on here, and I was just going to get to her question. She had posted before, but let me look here. So before she had posted on Facebook, she said, I feel like her teachers will say she doesn't qualify, she isn't behind enough. But I'm of the mindset, the more help, the better. Now, she also posted a comment on our group tonight, so let's see. She says, by the end of the day, isn't it still just their recommendation over mine? I think my daughter would qualify, but I'm doubtful they will agree. I'm sorry, I think my internet is slow tonight because I keep seeing broadcasts interrupted. So hopefully you guys are still on with us. So to look at that comment as far as at the end of the day, it's their recommendation over a parent's recommendation. And actually, this is something that can happen in all IEP team meetings around any kind of discussion, like where your child's placement is going to be, if there's disagreement about the goals. So it really needs to be a consensus from the IEP team. And if you can't get that, sometimes it's best just to say, we're going to adjourn this meeting, we're going to table this, and we're going to come back at another date. Because sometimes it would be helpful for you to be able to have some extra time, maybe to gather more information, more documentation, to really look at your state regs and make sure that you've looked at all the criteria that can happen in that your state can use, and that would, be helpful. If you're in a state that also uses facilitated IEP meetings and you come to an impasse at your team meeting and the school is saying no, she doesn't qualify, and you think she does qualify, sometimes you can ask for a meeting to be scheduled with a IEP facilitator, and that can be helpful. And I keep seeing broadcasts interrupted, so this is I know, really frustrating. So I'm gonna see. I'm plugged into my internet, but I'm wondering if my internet provider is not showing a strong signal tonight. So let's continue on here, and these are all great questions. So make sure that you keep asking your questions. And I see that Sherry has joined us from Canada. So welcome, Sherry. I also had a question this week from Amy, and she asked, I've been needing to find this out for my 8-year-old on an IEP. How do you qualify? What days, times, location? Now, I bet this is similar to what you hear from a lot of your school districts. We've picked the dates for extended school year this year. A lot of times it's June and July kinds of dates. It's real typical for them to say only 4 days a week and only in the morning. And actually, this is probably more for the the courtesy or something of teachers that maybe only want to teach for ESY during the summer for 4 weeks a week, or 4 days a week and 4 weeks per the summertime. But the program is not supposed to be based on what teachers want or how much money the district wants to put into ESY services. Again, it's individualized. So you need to speak up and say, my understanding is it's based on my child's needs, not what the district has decided to offer this year. And you need to have that conversation going back and forth. So are you ready for our third shocking truth about extended school year? If you're ready, go ahead and type ready in the comment box. Let's see. I'm going to check it here quickly and see if we have any other questions. The third shocking truth is that ESY services don't only have to happen in the summer. And I think probably most of the examples we were giving tonight were things that, services that students get in the summer. But really, the way that the language is stated in the federal regulations, as far as making sure it's services that your child needs to receive that free appropriate public education. If you have a long break at Christmas or a winter vacation, if your child goes to a year-round school and they have several 3 or 4 week breaks throughout the calendar year, your child may need extended school year services for those times. So don't just assume that extended school year services can only happen during the summer. That's when they typically happen, but that's not the only time that they have to happen. So that's something else to keep in mind. Now I wanted to look at another parent's question that we got, and that was from Cindy. And she said, I'm asking for another parent. If a child has been determined to need an outside placement in a specialized school, can the school district stop paying their portion of the specialized school during the summer when the student shows regression? And she went on to say, I believe the school may have offered their standard half day, 4 days for 4 weeks for their ESY program. So as I said at the beginning of our broadcast, I'm not an attorney, so I can't give you legal advice. But my advocacy understanding would be that, yes, even if your child's in a specialized school and the district has been paying the cost of that specialized school, then if your child needs those extended school year services throughout the year, yes, then that child would qualify. And yes, the district would have to pay for those services. Um, I had another mom write in a question, and I forgot to actually type it up here for me to read, but another mom from Idaho, Val, had typed in a question, and she had said she didn't think that her sons would qualify for ESY. And one of the comments that she made was that her district doesn't even offer ESY services. So immediately, that's a pretty big red flag. Chances are in a school district, even if it's a small school district, there are students in there with IEPs that would be eligible for ESY services. So when I hear that a district has made a blanket decision or a statement not to offer any ESY programs or services, that would be something that I for sure would want to take up not only with the IEP team, but if you don't get anywhere at that level, I would want you to go ahead and talk to the special ed director in the district, because that's, I just would be totally surprised if there's not one child in that district with an IEP that would need ESY services. So for sure, I would talk with them about that. Then Natalie had asked, she said, does a student have to have below average scores in every subject to qualify? Or if per se the student was low in math, would that be enough to qualify for that subject? And I think this is a great question, so I'm glad that Natalie posted that. I happen to know that she lives in Idaho, so I know what Idaho's ESY guidelines are. And I think in this case, Natalie, you would want to use the regression and recoupment factor. And so what you would want to do is look back at different math scores. It could be, standardized tests of what your son scored for math. It could be, end of unit chapter tests in math that the teacher's been giving him. You can also look at progress reports from his IEP goals and look at what the progress is on his math IEP goal, if that's the one area that you're concerned with. The other thing is you could talk to the teachers. So it's not just, data from test scores, but talk to the teachers and see what they've noticed after a long break, after a long vacation. Has your child lost some of those math skills? Has it taken him a while to get back up to where he was before vacation? And as a parent, you can make notes as far as what you observe after vacation and how long it takes for your child to remember how to do those math problems, or to get back up to where he was functioning in math class before that long vacation happened. So I would think, Natalie, for your situation, you'd want to look at the regression and recoupment factor. And I think I had said this previously in our show tonight, but you don't have to show that your child qualifies for every IEP goal. A lot of times students will only be eligible for services for certain IEP goals that they currently have in their document. So if math is a one where he really has the trouble and loses a lot of those skills, then math may be the only area that he would get extended school year services for. So that's something that you could kind of watch out for. And I see Yael has joined us. And Yael was saying, that's too funny and a great excuse. No one offers it. And I think she was referring to Val's question about the school district that she lives in doesn't offer ESY to anyone. So again, I I kind of doubt that that would be appropriate. So that would be something that you want to have a conversation with. Now we're coming to kind of the end of our show. I do have another shocking truth to share with you. So you want to make sure that you stay for that. I did want to say that, this has been a lot of information and it's like, how am I going to remember all this? So what I do when I do these kind of problem solving videos is I make it into a blog post and I post it on my Facebook, or not my Facebook, I posted it on my website. So if you're not getting my blog posts now, if you're not getting, on the website, it's called newsletter, you can go to my website. And for people just listening in, the website URL is www.cspeda.com. And you can sign up for my newsletters and you'll get probably this Saturday morning, you'll get the blog post that comes out all about ESY, and it will be taken from this live show that we're doing tonight. The other thing that I do is each time after I do a live Facebook show is I also post it on my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel you can go to. It's under my business name and it's called Collaborative Special Education Advocacy. And so that makes it an easy way to find videos if you go over to that YouTube channel. So to end tonight, we have one more shocking truth about extended school year services. So if you're ready for this last shocking truth, say yes in the comments or give us a thumbs up. The last shocking truth is what you accept continues. So think about that. What you accept continues. So as a parent, if you continue to accept that what staff members say on the IEP team when they say, no, your child doesn't qualify, if you accept that, that's what's going to continue to happen. If you continue to accept that the district only offers some students ESY services, but they're not individualized, that will continue to be what your child receives. So I think this applies not only to extended school year services, but all the services and supports that your child needs. What we accept as parents is what the school district is going to continue to do. So unless we speak out, unless we speak up for our kids, change isn't going to happen. And we are going to see school districts continue to only offer a certain program during certain times of the summer. We're going to see school districts deny services for students because they'll come up with some kind of reason as to why they don't qualify. Or they'll simply tell you, no, that's not what our district offers. So please, make sure what you're accepting for your child is something that you're willing to live with and is something that you're willing to have continue next year. As an advocate, I'm here to help parents. I'm here to help you problem solve. I'm here to help you understand your rights. So please reach out and contact me. You can just leave a message in Facebook. You can post a comment. But I'd be more than happy to set up a time where we can talk individually about your child and what kinds of supports and services they need. So next week, we have a wonderful, awesome advocate from Texas who's going to join us, and we're going to specifically talk about advocacy skills and how to get those extended school year services. tonight was kind of the context and the background about what criteria most states have and some examples of specific states. But next week, when we have our guest advocate from Texas joining us, he'll be helping us understand how we can advocate for extended school year services. So until next Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m., I'm Charmaine Thaner, and thank you for joining us. Take care.